the African Parliament, the Pan-African Parliament. Abidi mema onya ntiese enyumekuo bi anase ekuo a womo eye adwuma se de be ya bibiman yebetimi apem ade akoye nimu na nanse menti me hwase bia pejepeja no ho ho a yente ase ye ba bedi sa ankomo no padene yedi kan ene coordinator in Pan-African Parliament in Penifo no baako edi nkomo Gilbert edi nkomo all the way from South Africa no odi nsem bitudwa Tibetie sansem no wi a penin baako nso wo fia head of communication de ma African Parliamentary Press Network ofie ha yede no ebedi nkomo yentie Gilbert emresia
APPN, the African Parliamentary Press Network, is very worried about development at the Pan-African Parliament, and this has resulted in the steering committee of the APPN to issue the statement that we are discussing today. The APPN is of the view that the AU needs to take the necessary steps to ensure that the Pan-African Parliament is well-resourced to be able to discharge its responsibilities. The Parliament is supposed to meet 4 times in a year, 2 committee meetings and 2 ordinary sessions. Unfortunately, these financial challenges that the Parliament has faced for some time now has made it impossible for them to have their August committee meetings. And as we speak now, we are not so sure whether the Parliament will be able to have its ordinary session. And this development is one that all stakeholders should be worried about. For the Parliament to be able to discharge its responsibilities effectively, the Parliament needs to be resourced to just do that. Secondly, the APPN is very much worried about development relating to its leadership struggle. And we are of the view that the rules of the Parliament needs to apply. The rules of the Parliament needs to be respected. And all the internal mechanism within the rules of Parliament needs to be used to address any challenges that the Parliament is being faced with. Instead of resorting to the executive wing of the AU to address these issues, the Parliament is an independent organ of the AU. And the Parliament, as all parliaments in the world, are masters of their own rule. They come out with their own rules and they implement their own rules. So we are pleading with all stakeholders to respect the independence of the Parliament and ensure that the right thing is done. Secondly, there are people who are of the view that the amended rules of the Parliament is not consistent with the protocol that sets the Parliament out. Even if that is the situation, the right forum to address this concern is still the Parliament. The Parliament needs to address these concerns. And so we do not find the need for any external body, especially the executive arm of the AU, to be interfering in internal affairs of the Pan-African Parliament. We are appealing to all stakeholders to ensure that the rule of law applies, that we build strong institutions, that we allow institutions to function as per their mandate, and not to interfere in the affairs of institutions on the continent, because this is the only way that we can grow as a continent and be more effective in our governance structure in this continent. Thank you. APPN, the African Parliamentary Press Network, is very worried about
I was anti-penny and any aiding commoner Gilbert Bokete Boyfew or your country programs manager and a fee Edema Parliamentary Network Africa and a fee coordinator African Parliamentary Press Network and I any come all the way from the base there was South Africa. Your communication head of communication the African Parliamentary Press Network no ha Ufia and Ebedin Komo Era Clement Akolo. Eja akwaba
eja mirase
se bibia aboko
nyame adom bibia aboko mona mobo ejuma
magana yedara ase quickly say you can the African odiyen share with APPN. What do you stand for?
Okay, African Parliamentary Press Network a network of parliamentary journalists.
Okay.
omo born to a free embrace bedwafie.
Okay.
Journalist and I say you can say journalist.
Essential
for
we hear you
free embrace bedwafie.
Okay.
It I say eku ayaka enwa bom on the whole continent of Africa.
Enye Ghana pe.
Okay. So on the whole continent of Africa. And since here na wo I'm so based 28 countries in Africa.
Okay.
But yeah, our wish is say, and I say our vision is say we'll cover the whole of Africa.
Okay.
Maybe by next year.
Okay.
So we want to cover the whole of Africa. And you know, yeah, more amani free parliament.
Inti mrashe bedwa wo ebibrem ha nyina mo djuma mo yense mo bo amani free ho no.
Ye bo amani free ho. Nti omo bo amani free Ghana, Togo, Liberia, Sierra Leone, omo nyina na yaka bom. Na ye a network of parliamentary journalists.
Mo ye be say. Oh, you say so far mo ye be say.
Ye do so. And I'm about to say we are in about 28 African countries. Enye country baako, enye Ghana, enye Togo. Yeah, so about 28 African countries, and say we have about 54 African countries.
Okay.
Now we are in about 28 African countries, and we are hoping, say, by the close of next year, we would have covered almost all Africa.
So mo botai pa ne say.
Yeah, botai ne say. On say democracy be ejina a parliament. It revolves around parliament. Because we count democracy pa na we yi parliament free ma enye yi. Na Africa no ye timu say said the democracy ne be so mu no. Entimi so mu sa. Na mbrahye centralfo edi akoten ewom. Enti no ye pese etimi eka centralfo ni nyina bom. Said the be democracy ne be ti ase e betimi aso mu andi egira ho. Because we is a for free the democratic process no more because we are like the glue. Yes, so other parts no. You know, yes, so parliament mu, yes, so the executive mu, yes, so judiciary, yes, so BMU, ye come boom. Say, as I say, we internet fair watchdog no. So we play our watchdog role. You know, ye shall say the moya wahano ekoyi ema democracy bekoyi. Na e ka say democracy a efa nipa no ho.
Okay.
Wo ho efa yen timamufo no ho. Enti no say yen ye beye say adwuma na omo nya ho faso eye timamufo no. Enti na yen ya kan ho abom say yen pese it's a for ana security bi betra e bi atogo no no kwan ye na de na akoye susu ye ewo de ye wo Ghana mu. Ba yen nyina yen mu kambo mu enisuade hu baako a na afi na Ghana no nyina yegyina ho na wo hwe a won say Ghana so ye di democracy mu tintimba like intini so ye experience ye wo no na ye di share ye di kan ho abom say de be ya ebetimi ama democracy no
mate
atene wo
ye da sipi say wa man ye sanchi mu no afi ye nhwe mote na feben se na niam asiko as we speak.
Okay, it ye ba enche bebre nanso no ye adwuma bebre. On say ye free be open parliament. It's under the open governance partnership. Now open parliament no e chere say ye pese ye bie amamu no so na timamfo no e participate ehun de ekoso e wo parliament because say mbahye bijafo kotra honum na omu ye emra e de mai na ye ni we don't participate in it ye ni ye say ni mu a emra na o ya mai no enye adwuma to say sometimes government officials ni MPs ebi mo ha omutimi e feel say o omuti ba bia am say nkofo o mu hia nsuo ana omu hia classroom omu sorry ana omu ne nkofo no nkasa no mo akosi obo nsa ade ni si ho nanso obi ankoho wo it is not participatory enough it is say yetimi ma amanfo no e participate in the
governance.
In the governance.
Okay.
So open parliament. Until ye championing open parliament in this Africa continent. And Parliamentary Network Africa. And the mother organization,
okay.
APPN,
okay.
it's you can say the Parliamentary Network Africa, and the secretariat for the APPN, African Parliamentary President, and the PN Africa, they see the nation say or per se or tre the open parliament or Africa, say the beya timamufon be nyaho faso, say governors na ekosono.
Okay. What is the issue of the struggle? Assembly, I understand. Because unze butai na mode ba na ye butai pa. Eye ebibrim hanum. Adehye wo ha na mo kwamaya na ye hu de ekoso wo yen ye mra se bedwefie ni nyina kama na yentu yetimi de ye ho agimbi. So what is the struggle about?
The mobile na SFM I high parliamentary press network in the say. Who say you were parliament and answer Mbrashe Bejua bad time ku kese I a friend of Pan-African Parliament.
Yeah.
It's in the whole continent of Africa no or parliament no say AU African Union or parliament no a Pan-African Parliament. No mu bomudja South Africa.
First in Ethiopia.
Yes.
Any of the bars.
Yes. It's South Africa and Omuwo. Sisia and headquarters in Ewo. Na Yayane say Omushia 4 times in a year. It's Ushe Parliament Biana. Omuye Omoma Parliament ye Juma. And I say Adikudia ma Parliament ye Juma pa a committee level. Because the Ombeye wo floor ni no. Omoye wo committee. Asana omo dey aba floor because committee no anye juma omba plenary a omunya hweye enti no omo yen say 4 times in a year the Pan-African Parliament will meet. 2 will be plenary session omo beba be didi nyama na omakoka wo committee no omo be di unkomo enti no omo hye ne say the first one no ombeko committee in the beginning of the year, Umbeko committee meeting. Umko committee meeting niwia. Na fe the second Omaba plenary session. Omuwia no masanko committee. Na the last one no maba plenary session. Ewo by November thereabout. Na sikasem parliament
no na Gilbert sikasem ye issue.
Pan-African Parliament in sikasem how much?
I don't want baby munyiska.
Oh, said the African Union, AU, and as I say, it's me a finance.
Okay.
The Pan-African Parliament. So I say Ghana buying. The Parliament of Ghana no is financed by the government
of Ghana.
The government of Ghana. Even though it's supposed to be independent, but Nisikasem no a bit free. Baby Naba. But
if AU
neighbor.
Okay.
Now the system has been cushioned, like for Ghana's system, no, it has been cushioned in such a way, say, by almost no Ghana's parliament funds no, as a say common. Some time ago, no, they were having issues like that. But the new system, no, say the parliament has to assert itself. Because and yes, the channel. The Juma is also no. It's in the Pan-African Parliament, no. AU. Sika omo Pan-African Parliament dey Juma no. Etosin. It's in the Juma no eso omo ye. Omuntimi nye.
Sika no ma na se sika ni swa. Sika ni swa. Na eto de bia otimu say aye say nkofo bi ahihye ho. Na ye pese say woman diane no di na oye kese a ono na obeba be how it let's staff them of the funds so that omutimi nya it ye kase sisi ayi na esan ka omukọ committee meetings in August omutimi anko kasem nya
Now earlier on me say any parliament worth its sort no a committee no enema omutimi ejuma
ejina omunaso
na sesi as a committee no
omontimi
anya omujuma
then on ba be your
plenary it means say old staff no and on be sande aba plenary ensanka committee no omutimi tutu akwan ekokoko hwehwe some nyama bi mu ne nyama said the bear so omo ye laws na omutimi aye laws and the free time Pan-African Parliament by from 20 I don't want to make I don't want to make a mistake, you know. But omo buy no, as I say, after a while no, sisi omo ye model laws. Sisi omo ye like consultative and advisory parliament. But after a while no, esanka omo timi ebe ye a proper legislative assembly for the AU. But Sanyama wing getting among 43 strings or any Sanyaman. Say the Beya Pan-African Parliament ain't mean dinner home.
No, as I had the infant free bar. If we Africans now say if you baby, because the way the anchor, it is for the good of Africans.
Oh, says is here no. Rural Pan-African Parliament is so plain no. In Kofubi, part of the organ of the AU no, a place our role. Well, anka as I say, anka African Union no, omo budget no kra no, eba Pan-African Parliament. What is it? Ye wo Ghana no. Budget no ba, no ma hwem na omo aka ho asem na omo ma recommendation. Esanka etimi ba Pan-African Parliament honum. No omo hwem, no omo ma recommendation for the AU budget. But emba a co baby, the AUC, African Union Commission. Omona sisi omo place her role.
Did I say Pan-African Parliament for no ne AUC for no na ase mentim ho ase na ba ho.
Mentim ho ase no ehye ho. Ehye ho no mpa ma moko show 2021-2022 and omo year budget de ma Pan-African Parliament. Omo year budget no na ekosi be ye 11 million something dollars. Na 11 million no because na COVID war honum no. It you know when they were doing the budget they took into consideration say plenary session proper no was not going to come on. It you know o man sheda amfa eno anhye budget no because the budget cycle of AU no runs between March to June thereabout. It say by that time no ma yewi. It omo yewi no. But on the 29th of June, omo ye plenary session. Omo ko na fe sika na omo am factor into it say omo ye plenary section. Na fe abam. Hono omo ko elect new bureau members because if you remember no, Pan-African Parliament was having leadership issues. Yeah. It was shut down for a while. So they came back during that time and omo timi elect a new one. It na fe budgets no mu kra no. It was not enough. Emma the executive council no can say AUC ni hwe na omo top up omo sika ne ema omo eno kra twimi gidigidi sa ansana omo ba be top up eno kra no a budget of 1.7 million omo de kra omo de top up no ye omo less than 60%. Because omo nya 600 and something thousand. And omo de kan omo we no. It no say even at that time na COVID ba na the last point na ansa na omo timi ye plenary session na odi ni nyina kan na onya be $12 million $12 million the following year wo kwa kwa budget a obe ni say obeko we ni
because we na nkasa no kwa anso to the baby account say na be am betim adru mu dai no
na fe ukoma no the next budget for 2023 no na wasante so kakra 11 million something wasante so kakra wa o hwa ebe so enso
and this is what is the way forward
it one say honorable Muntaka or parliament Ghana ono ye chairman of the finance and monetary affairs of the Pan-African Parliament. Now, omo call the last plenary session no. And no address omo no catch say. Sir, budget win enso someone for bi anka ho a yentimi enye the next committee and even the next plenary session ombeye wo Uganda no enso omone mpenifo akokasa ewo AU aka ho asema aka bibia mo mfasika na nka ho mo mfasika na nka ho a yete hai sisi ai omontimi anko committee sittings sisi ai yete
and yese muntaka nze na edwuma na kwa wie o
so ono
the finance chair there next come but then say edwuma bi na obi
into no omudi eche sisi a make say mate say yese ya invite omo to already no omako African Union akoko explain this animal way mate say I invite you to Ethiopia omukako shia empenifo ni bi wo honom ahwe eho asemaka because sesikani bi ama mbeka ho a na che say the last plenary session on be in esanka ba su October ba say the ehwe na ebia na akoko du be November na se bibisa wo enti no say ejuma na the African Union be di no umma Pan-African Parliament bedi no umma sika na ontimi nye
ene sisi ada akwa ese ekonkon ho na se
mu pese ebi mu pensa
mu guno ebi mu pensa ya na so wenche da nya effective na ye guno na ko
asem na no because say jina ho a na mba be hwe ne mamu se mu njira
betima ye policies ne ade betima boa the continent but say ni ho de a hwe ni ho amba ye ho adwuma bi
de ye no mu bi yesusu ne se niama wo honom a obi mpese obi be hwem because say parliament there ehwehwehwe niama mu ese se hwe mu budget mu ese se hwe hwehwe mu na se mu mpese be gina there and then am obi bia modisi a mo mpese obi
enkomo we we say ye to aso da foforo ezanse so ye bre no aye bia we say ye so be say betima fa bia be 2 calls bia na fe ye di esi ebusuan ye ne era Clement Akolo na edi nkomo ene anwumre we ne ye hwe the Pan-African Parliament ye nya ne ntiese mentim ho ase bi na no wa kirikire mu dia man ne badanka omuso djuma omudie no enye oman ba akodia eyanka the continent no omudi djuma ne de man but I say twuma mentwum bia but I say metima for be 2 calls bia na ye de 0302 771593 na ye di nkomodify youth in afforestation ho ansana ye by the African Parliament ye di eho enkomo na me mate honorable Muntaka on several occasions or bitterly or complaining about say issue we but minim baby e be kwa ebia na omukọ meeting no wa Addis Ababa we say dem ba ebia na
ya yes but aside the money issue no have a power struggle penifo no mo ho no omuso mo struggle say sisi ano on say your president and your vice sisi ya vice no baako afa parliament no say ono no your opinion because the odi enim no president no echo election.
Okay.
By the time I call election about we have a budget on my transfer.
Mami first caller. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Embacho udini fa kwa okase free.
Your family Letitia me kasa free Accra.
Okay, Letitia miteo.
Me pacho, you share the recent happenings in African countries. You share coup ahodra ACC na you share Pan-African Parliament so Omujumedia or Mudia on form 90 format. Is it not a threat to Africa? Because according to they are looking elsewhere. Meanwhile, the youth are angry and they must sit up. Send your name to other African countries. I think this is the time I shall say Pan-African Parliament, External Senate, Nijuma, send your beya, or move shene ye ato ye, na sama sika 70. You may be in Kosi. But gentleman, Nema say, is it not a threat to the African parliamentary system?
Mate, Medasi P. You say a bit mafa, Kualaba could be a kanwa. Where there was someone. Because it's a crowd cool, say, try and wish ya.
Because
the Pan African Parliament, I want mobile boys or Moswa.
because ushe function of the Pan-African Parliament na sanema we na so mo hwe na democracy ne etintim wo krom ha na se mo fa sika ne mom na omo nkasa so eko because see ade esi wo honom no aye say eyeku because who ye subordinate who ye how do you call it, the vice president, that president ne call election aba
oba ya wetu na ade
wetu no because na nka enyo no na obeye acting president, the acting president no wo ho onu fi Cape Verde and onu agi
na je say ku no mo sa
ye ku wo ho no.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Emba cho di ni fa kwa kase free.
I tell me about the fitema.
Ya o meteo.
Nyamitie nye koso ne se the mapunu ayo Africa ha. Ti asoye nyina yanka se committee meetings omoko anase permanent omu publish contributions are individuals here because we say contribute like France say we are always trying to make life difficult for AU to work. They see the obia contribution by voice. They who against us, those who are not, so that we the youth can attack them to be removed from their position as parliamentarians to African Parliament. Otherwise, the one goes that's my take.
Mate, thank you for also passing through yada CP member and the idea me se metima for last one na fe yede si na yera akolo unyi ni said the AC depict what is happening in Africa no na ehun so na yenya wo Pan African Parliament
Intina higher no African Parliamentary President.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Fine evening, Jeff.
Ofa udini fa kwa kase free.
Mpacho FM Kwabransa.
Kwabransa mitio.
Mpacho omo kasafa amambu huni ade. Oh. Hello.
Mitio pa kwabran.
Mpacho won say sisi ewiase na ye koso ye komu sisi ano ahokyere wo ho. Ahokyere wo ho na Ghana mpanimfo ne wiase abibimani nyina yaye yadwene se youth no yempa adwuma bi ma omo nye nemum edu tamu a omo beye omo election a na omo de youth no ye nkwase adwuma na omo beye na omo manka ho omo asese omo ma de omo kugwa burukyire na nkwala na omo gwa burukyire no omo aso besa bebu ye nse yenso ye nkwase ampafo that means ye nkwase adwuma mo omo papa nye sika edu omu ko school aburuche ne sa nkola no so abeye mpanimfu ase bebu yenso yemma enkwasea nti wuhwa abrabo na yebo no owowohoi se wantia na wonye den wonkaw Ghana mpanimfu entoto niema yie because the way asisi Ghana youth ni yenya adwuma nye nye kumi kura ye akua adwuma abaga na wose mpanimfu no address minister ne ade di sika kyem na Ghana for youth no omu employ wo no munye adwuma ye no omu nye
Mate kwabran piao yemfansi yeda CP yebre na yebe ima yera akolo mpacho ofisima me na yenso
yo enti ye how bebre ne say Pan African Parliament no parliament a ebeboa ye bebre mu ha ku na ekoso ni nyina no say Pan African Parliament mi gina ho no ma sa ne ma wo nyina ebetime
ni ziaji ye ko install democracy because ho so ku esi wo
enti de enti aye ni abre ne say on say amanfo bebre enim Pan African Parliament ene edwuma omo ye enti no de ekoso wo ho no no say yan fam bambonti ama timamofo ahu na Africa fo nyina ehu say na ekoso a ye dini say ya na Pan African Parliament na egu enti na ye ni abre no enti no AU4 empesika ma omo no mo fanye omo we na fe omo hwe na leadership struggle na wo hono no
omo nsisi me da CP Clement Akolo, head of communication the African Parliamentary Press Network and OTC no aiding komo yedi council and Gilbert aiding komo all the way from the base of South Africa ya da CP na je say the dayakoso ya ni pitri the yakoso we biblim mam ha no as a Pan African Parliament anka no be boya no so ku esi wo na ku esi wo de be na ku nsi ni she midin e the RSM Kofi do lo